Hi, my name is Thomas Hawk, and today I will be presenting Chapter 4's section on intelligence in the book Psychology of Adulthood. The section over intelligence is introduced with a definition of intelligence before discussing fields of study such as psychometrics and methods of measuring intelligence. Next, the author discusses age changes in overall intelligence before discussing the Flynn effect. Components of intelligence like fluid and crystallized intelligence are then presented before the author concludes this section with a discussion of reversing declines in intellectual abilities. Intelligence is defined in the book as the aggregate or global capacity of the individual to act purposefully, to think rationally, and to deal effectively with his environment, and that was by Weschler in 1939. Which is basically just saying how an individual processes information in various scenarios. However, scanning definitions of intelligence results in large variation of definition. Just looking on the internet, the favorite one I found defines intelligence as the ability to acquire and apply knowledge and skills. The book then discusses psychological fields of study exemplifying psychometrics, which is the field of psychology that studies the measurement of human abilities such as intelligence. Some psychologists are more interested in specific fields of study such as components of intellectual capacity. This includes the Weschler Adult Intelligence Scale, which I have on here as WAIS, which is composed of verbal comprehension, perceptual reasoning, working memory, and processing speed, all of which can be tested in order to determine an adult's intelligence. The intelligence quotient and its applications are then discussed, and here you can see an example on the side, which is pretty easy, but they can get difficult. Here are a couple more examples of what you may see on the intelligence quotient test, with difficulty increasing the farther along you go. So if you look at question B, you can see that it's basically going from left to right, and then switching the sides that they're on. So the answer to this one would be 4. And with question C is a little harder. It's just pretty much combining these two to make the third. So putting the triangle on top of that one would make 5 be the correct answer. These are both examples of seeing patterns, but there are various questions such as number sequences, associations, and cognitive tests on an IQ exam. The main question approached for age changes in overall intelligence is whether or not IQ scores decrease with age. Do they decrease, remain constant, or do they increase? Cross-sectional studies were used in the 1920s to 50s during the origination of the IQ exam, and it seemed to show trends which indicated a decline in IQ beginning in early adulthood, steadily decreasing thereafter. Studies show that some adults maintain or even increase their intelligence throughout adulthood, but the mass population still maintains a steadily decreasing average intelligence. However, our knowledge association with intelligence has changed over the years. Chapter 4's figure 4.1 compares a projected current longitudinal change in comparison to 1977's cross-sectional data acquired. As you can see, both studies indicate an overall decrease with total intellectual activity in relation to the participant's age, but the projected longitudinal change doesn't propose significant drop-off in intelligence until around age 63. The main explanation between the differences presented is that there are cohort effects in play, meaning that as years of education, good health, and cognitive complexities of life have increased from previous case studies, the average scores of a person's successive cohort have also increased. And this is related to what is called the Flynn effect, named after psychologist James Flynn. Flynn documented that the average IQ was steadily increasing over the 20th century, which this graph would support. Next, the book discusses components of intelligence such as crystallized and fluid intelligence, followed by patterns of change in fluid and crystallized abilities. Crystallized intelligence is defined as learned abilities based on education and experience measured by vocabulary and by verbal comprehension. Examples of this include knowledge of facts or possessing a foundation of knowledge on specific topic. The book gave specific examples such as balancing a checkbook, counting change, and knowing where items are in a grocery store, being examples of crystallized intelligence. Crystallized intelligence can be tested by vocabulary and verbal comprehension, with an example being reading a paragraph, then answering questions about that paragraph after you've read it. In contrast, fluid intelligence is related to more basic adaptive abilities measured by tests of digit span, response speed, and abstract reasoning. Examples of this include solving puzzles or coming up with problem-solving strategies. A common measure of fluid intelligence is a letter series test in which you may be given a series of letters and you'd have to figure out what letter would come next in line. And I have a couple examples of this. Looking at the first example, you can confidently and probably immediately answer what the next, hopefully immediately answer what the next letter in line would be, with the answer being E. However, with the second example, you might have to observe the letters and find a pattern in order to determine what letter would come next. But I'm sure with everyone would be able to figure out this example with little effort. The pattern given in the second example is skipping 2 letters every time, making the next letter in line M. A research study performed by psychologists Xu Chen Li and her colleagues demonstrated change in crystallized and fluid abilities. Li achieved this result by testing individuals aged 6 through 89 by giving them a number of fluid and crystallized tasks. Results from the study showed peak performance of fluid tasks by individuals in their mid-20s, with declines being obvious by the mid-30s. In comparison, crystallized abilities were peaked by individuals in their 40s and remained stable all the way up to people in their 70s. The book refers back to how certain types of intelligence decrease throughout life. However, Lee's research and other psychologists' intelligence research have shown that intelligence is decreasing slower than previously thought. In relation to intelligence and health, studies show that intelligence predicts health and longevity, but only when intelligence is measured by IQ-type tests. However, the reasoning for this connection is unclear, but it is proposed that higher intelligence is associated with increased care for personal health, such as respect to healthcare and avoiding personal injury. The book then goes into detail on reversing declines in intellectual abilities as people age. When it became apparent that intelligence didn't always drop off with age, researchers began to alter their studies to see if they could increase intelligence with age rather than decrease, or see examples of intelligence increasing with age, and the research proved successful. This graph is proof of this, indicating improvements in numbers of words correctly completed as the test subject's chronological age increased. So in conclusion, although intelligence seems to decrease with age, overall intelligence measured by an intelligence quotient seems to remain highly stable throughout one's life. Certain types of intelligence, such as crystallized intelligence, may decrease throughout life, but others, such as fluid intelligence, are seen to peak in ages 40 through 70. Intelligence is increasing over the centuries as more technology comes out and more research is performed. And remember, studies show that increased intelligence is associated with improved health in many cases, so get out there and increase your intelligence. It may lengthen your lifespan. Thank you very much for watching my presentation on intelligence. I hope you've become more intelligent yourself.